A couple of weeks ago, I watched a Netflix documentary called The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. And I would recommend it to anybody out there who is into watching documentaries. It's a good documentary. It's very interesting. It was given very high reviews on a very good grade on Rotten Tomatoes, which I respect a lot. I think they gave it a 98%, something in the high 90s. And when I watched it, I found it pretty interesting. It leaves you asking a lot of questions. Basically, the documentary is about a young Norwegian man who, when he was born, had this debilitating disease. I can't remember what it was called, but then it was almost like an autoimmune disease where his body just started to shut down stage after stage. So from when he was very young, he found it very hard to stand for long and to walk without tripping. So his parents knew there was something up with him, but it just got worse to the point whereby when this man turned 10 years old, when this boy turned 10 years old, he couldn't walk at all. He was confined to a wheelchair. And by the time he was in his late teens, he was almost totally paralyzed. He could not move much but his fingers. But before then, his parents had introduced him to gaming. Since he couldn't go to school like a regular kid anymore, he had to leave school. And so he was schooling from home. So he was at home a lot. And his parents bought him a video game console. So he got into video gaming. And by the time he was in his teens, his late teens, to the time when he died at 25, he spent a lot of time playing this game called World of Warcraft. And when he died, his parents were very sad that he couldn't live a normal life. He couldn't go out and meet people. He never dated anyone, had no romantic relationships. So that ate at them a lot, that this man didn't live a full life that you expect someone of his age to have experienced some things. He never got to experience them. But he had a blog that he usually updated with his thoughts and things like that. Even though all he could move were some fingers, he had a blog that he regularly updated with what he was thinking. So when he died, his dad found his password to his computer and went to his blog to tell whoever would be reading his son's blog. They didn't think too many people were reading the blog, just to tell them that the person who usually updates this blog is dead. So he put out the blog post just to tell them, look, you won't be getting an update from this anymore. This young man is dead. And he went to bed. And he woke up the next day and realized that he got messages, a barrage of messages from all over the world. People saying they knew his son and how much his son had changed their lives and affected their lives positively. How much they had grown attached to this young man over the past few years of his life. And at first, this was very shocking to his parents that how could this be possible? This guy was confined to this wheelchair. He never left the house, always gaming. How could he have met all these people with all these flowing, incredible remarks about him? And then they decided to investigate. And what they found out was the last few years of his life, this young man, I think his name is Matt Steen, had spent over 20,000 hours on this gaming platform, on this game called World of Warcraft, playing the game and meeting people and forming a community. And that blew their mind. And that's what the documentary is about. Now, I remember when I watched this documentary, it took me somewhere in my mind that I just couldn't place. You know, I it felt very inspiring. I was very inspired by the story of this young man who seemed to be someone who had reached the end of his productivity as a human being. I mean, paralyzed, could only move his fingers. What could he contribute to the world, right? But then here he is proving his parents wrong, actually impacting people's lives through this gaming community and people he was meeting by playing this game. Now, that led me thinking, gaming, gaming can be all that bad. Spending 20,000 hours on a gaming platform, that can be bad. Why have I been so judgmental on people that spend all their time gaming? Because I know so many people nowadays, and that's what they do. That's what they do. You know, for those of them that have jobs to do, they go to their jobs and immediately come back, the game throughout. They game all weekend. They don't go out, they don't do anything, just game. And just made me just feel, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it does have a place in our lives. Maybe it has a role to play. But logically, that made sense to me. Spiritually, it didn't. And spiritually, I just started thinking there should be more to this. This doesn't seem right. This story at the periphery seems very inspirational, but at the core, there's something we are not investigating, which is what I want to talk about today. Because when I watched this movie, the first thing that came to my mind was a post I had seen, I think sometime last year or about 2 years ago on LinkedIn, I think, from a woman called Ariana Huffington. Now, for those of you who don't know Ariana Huffington, she's a very influential woman, very successful woman. She founded a website called Huffington Post, and very successful website, gets a lot of traffic, and she's very big and very, if you're on LinkedIn a lot, I get a lot of her posts on LinkedIn. But then she put on this post that caught my attention about a year, about 2 years ago. And I'll read the post out to you right now. The post says, gaming isn't where most people would think to improve their mental health. But there is no better way to help people improve their lives than meeting them where they are. And where 3 billion people are, more than a third of the world population, is the gaming platforms. Now, when I saw this post, I had to stop and think. It didn't just add up to me why she took out time to kind of give a positive review about gaming. It kind of seemed like an endorsement and an acceptance of people spending their time gaming. And my thoughts were, why does this intellectual woman, highly influential, take out time to talk about gaming in a way that she makes it seem like it's a place, it's an avenue in which you can actually get to improve people's mental health? But then the statistics caught my attention. The 3 billion people, her stating that there were more than 3 billion people on gaming platforms, was also something that that statistics kind of blew my mind, that there were that many people on gaming platforms. And so I kept that post. I kept that post because I didn't understand it, but I knew I would come back to it. But when I watched this documentary, it brought the post by Ariana Huffington to life. That there is more to it than gaming. And today I want to talk to you about These three influences that's going to affect our lives massively going into the future. And people really don't know how much, but it is. And this documentary, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn, puts a lot of it into context. I'm going to talk about AI, VR, and gaming. AI, VR, and gaming. I have a lot of people, since the advent of AI, since we started hearing about it, AI, a lot of people early on, the questions they were asking me, would AI take my job? Would AI take my job? I found myself on a lot of WhatsApp groups, a lot of webinars and stuff answering this question, would AI take my job? And this was about 4 years ago. But now I realize we've been asking the wrong question. It's not whether AI will take your job. It's really about whether AI will get to control your life. That's a more important question than whether AI will take your job. The question we should ask ourselves, would AI control our lives? And over the past few weeks, I've come to realize that itself is the question that we are not asking. Would AI control our lives? And I truly think if we continue on this trajectory, I don't see how it wouldn't. These three things, which I want to call the apocalyptic trinity, AI, VR, and gaming, are more connected than we think. And I'll tell you how. First of all, I'll tell you about the good parts of these three things. I'll tell you about the honey before the gall, the carrot before the stick. AI is incredible. It actually is. For those that follow me on WhatsApp, I'm a great advocate for AI, especially when it comes to doing work with AI. I've worked in graphic design for a long time, visual brand identity, and to be honest, it's an amazing time to be born and to have an interest in graphic design or anything visual, to be an artist. It is. It is because the process in itself has been made much easier, where we can focus a lot on what we want to say rather than how or the process of getting it from thought into product. I personally think the process of getting from thought to product has taken too long. It usually takes too long. And a lot of times I've seen people who have gotten discouraged, people who are actually creatives, incredible creatives, but they've gotten discouraged because number one, the tools from getting from creative thought to creative product are too expensive. Number two, the learning curve is just too long, and when people get discouraged that they are not actually creative, so they stop. And I've seen people who do not actually give thought to their creativity, but have tools and are able to just create something and call themselves creative. But I really believe that the advent of AI has allowed the true creative to express their creativity easily. AI is incredible for work. And that's why when people used to ask me, would AI take my job? I tell people, I don't think AI will take your job. I think AI will cut out some jobs. But in the end, I think AI would purify the work environment and help us work better, faster. It will take out those human shortcomings, which is our pace of work, our propensity to make mistakes, errors, and just help us to overcome those things and deliver good work on time. I think AI would help work. I think it will help the creative person who also wants to write to focus on the idea of what they want to write. But AI would go in there and work on structure, punctuation, spellings, and things like that, and help that writer to convey their idea in a more articulate way. I think, especially for in the area of creative writing, some people have had insecurities. You understand about what their educational foundation has been. So not everybody has great primary school foundation or secondary foundation. Some people are not even formally educated, but then they have incredible creative ideas that they want to write out in terms of stories. And they felt an insecurity because, like, I'm not sure what my tenses are. I'm not sure what my grammar is like. I'm not sure what my spelling is right. So they've hidden those creative potential and they've left it to, let's leave it to the very educated ones. But I think AI kind of invites them to the table and say, as long as you have that creative story, which I think is the most important seed, come to the table and I'll take care of all these other things on the periphery. But at the core, your idea will still be protected and your idea will still be articulated. I think AI is great for that. It helps you to do incredible work. It helps you to do incredible art. When I look at it from my end of work, and I think it's the same thing with other professions too that adopt AI. I think AI is great for work. It's great work too. I have my kids doing a lot of art, animation, things that they wouldn't have been doing, you know, things I wanted to do at their age. But then I couldn't afford to go to a school like Savannah College of Arts and Design or Full Sail to learn a course in animation or digital painting or things like that. But they're just things I wanted to get out of my system. But I just couldn't get to do it. I couldn't get to do it, you understand? Because I didn't have the education. But now AI puts me on a level whereby I can get to do those things and get to express myself in that area. I also think AI has helped the young businesses too, that for some reason, just want to put out a flyer, a poster, you understand, to just advertise something about their business. Young businesses that can't afford to hire a graphic designer. Because the truth is, not all businesses can hire designers and copywriters and editors and things like that. But then they want to run the business. And that's why you see a lot of young businesses before the advent of AI, they couldn't thrive because they had to hire too many people before they even made their first profit. AI has helped them to be a one-stop shop in terms of, okay, I can do some level. I had the idea of what I want to say in terms of my caption, what I want to sell, but AI can help me finesse this. I have some idea of what I want the graphics to look like. I can use an AI tool to create a simple flyer. I can't afford photography for this thing, and I can't afford stock imaging. I'm just starting out at business. I can create an AI image. I think those things are very important for us to start to move forward in terms of production. I think AI has helped with that. When it comes to VR, I think VR is pretty interesting too. I think what VR does, my first experience of VR, if I'm thinking accurately here, is um, it just bridges that gap between being able to do something because you are financially capable and being able to do something because technology is available. Um, I remember going for an event at my kids' school then, and this was about 2, 3 years ago, and there was this VR section. At that point, my kids had never traveled outside of the country, and it was incredible for them to put on these VR glasses and go to France and see what it was like at the Eiffel Tower. It was very impressive for me to go to China and see what the Great Wall of China was like. You understand? It was very interesting. And I remember just a couple of weeks ago going to the Space Center here in Abuja. with my kids. It was incredible fun. And I guess the part I enjoyed the most was the part where we had this VR simulation of the universe and the solar system. And when we put on the VR headgear, we were actually in space. It was incredible. It was a good experience. You know, to go to space in the past, you need to have a lot of money. But now here was someone simulating something as close to space as possible for my kids to experience it. And it was a good learning experience for my kids. Seeing the planets, seeing the scale, seeing the vastness of space. It was a few minutes of something that would have been a boring abstract lecture for 11 to 8-year-olds. You understand? But then here it was very enthralling. They've never forgotten it. It's something that will stick with them for a long time, something that will stick with me for a long time. And this was really good. And when we went to the Space Center, after which they took us to another section where we were just meant to relax to playing some VR games. And this is where gaming comes in, where we could play some games. And we weren't just playing the games, but we were in the games. We were in the game, so it came more to life and we had so much fun. It was interesting. And this way gaming has developed to a large extent too, where graphics for gaming much better, much enthralling. I'm not big on gaming, and I think I've said this on the podcast before. I'm not a big gamer, so I can't talk a lot about gaming, but I know gaming has improved over the past few years, from the time of Pac-Man to what we have right now, where people are playing FIFA, and it's a world of difference. It's more entertaining. The entertainment value is like 1000% better. So these are the good parts of this: AI, VR, and gaming. They've made us enjoy the digital experience more. It has actually made entertainment better. It has made education better. It has made business better. That's the truth. However, I believe there's the stick on which the carrot hangs. And this is what we don't see, which is exactly what the donkey doesn't see. But when I watched this movie, this documentary, The Remarkable Life of Abeline, I started to see a little bit of that stick. And I can't tell you I've seen the full stick, but I'm seeing a little bit of it, just the tip of it. And I think maybe it was a bit accidental. They didn't mean for us to see the stick, but I saw a little bit of the stick, and I knew that it isn't all carrot. The carrot is being controlled by someone with a stick to get us to a particular destination. Now, the issue arises when we get so comfortable with AI, VR, and gaming that we begin to get intimate. The problem is with the intimacy level. It's when we begin to trust so much VR, we trust that experience of VR, that experience with AI, and that gaming experience so much that we begin to let it in to private areas of our lives. And then we get into an intimate relationship. It now becomes an intimate relationship. Intimacy is one of the highest frontiers of privacy. And once you can be intimate with someone, your guard is down. Once you can be intimate, you can be controlled. And I believe that's where the stick lies. You see, with AI, one thing I've come to realize is that people are beginning to get a hang on AI in terms of using it for work, and they realize it makes their work better and faster. People have been using Chat GPT for work. But then I realized there's a recent trend with Chat GPT. And I've been seeing screenshots from people when it comes to Chat GPT. And they say, I use Chat GPT for this. People have started asking Chat GPT personal questions. So it has gone from, how do I do this for work, to asking ChatGPT, what do you think about me? Who am I? People are asking ChatGPT who they are. What do you think about me? They're asking ChatGPT, if you were to talk about me in one paragraph, what would you say about me? What kind of person do you think I am? People are talking to ChatGPT about their mental challenges, emotional challenges, spiritual challenges. ChatGPT, I can't pray. What do you advise me to do to get to praying again? I just broke up with my girlfriend, broke up with my boyfriend, just broke up with me. I just broke up with my boyfriend. How do I deal with this? What do you think I'm feeling right now? What would you advise me to do today? What would you advise me to eat today? I can't sleep. What would you advise? That's where the danger is. When we go into intimacy, private things that we start discussing with AI. Because when you begin to get intimate, you begin to relinquish a lot of your control. Intimacy takes us to a point of trust where we begin to trust people with control of our lives. Where ChatGPT or any AI platform becomes realer than the next human being, becomes friendlier than the next human being, becomes wiser than the next human being. What this will do is isolate us. This would effectively isolate us from our fellow human beings. And that is the first stage. What that plants, what that seed brings up is the seed of loneliness, where you actually feel lonely and misunderstood by every other person, but you feel understood by this one person. It's a very dangerous thing. It's what happens to young girls when they live in a house where they feel misunderstood, they can't talk to anyone, and they meet a young man who seems to take time to listen to them. First of all, he pays them a compliment. Oh, you look so nice, stuff like this, you do this so well, can I help you with this? Helping them to build sand castles. He helps them. He seems to be the only one that sees them. Then after a while, they begin to get intimate. And this young girl begins to ask him questions about themselves. And they're able to give the answers that they know the young girl wants. And before you know it, you have a girl, 12, 13, 14, running away with a 20-something-year-old man. And we wonder how this happens. What has happened is that she had gone from a place of platonic trust to a place of intimate trust to a place of relinquishing control. She feels alone and feels like this man is the only one that understands her, so she feels safe with him. She can do what she cannot do at home with him. She can be who she can't be at home with him. Which is the same thing with VR. At first, VR started as an experience, in experiencing an experience of the world that you couldn't get on a good day. But now VR has developed into a social experience that you are unable to get with the life you live and the social status you have. There are a couple of videos I saw online some time back, and they're getting more and more popular, where you see a man. You see a man with the VR glasses on, and you see him gyrating his body like he's having sexual intercourse with a woman. And some of the videos that I've seen, someone just walks in, like I don't know whether they're orchestrated or stuff, but it's like a roommate walks in on them and pulls the glasses off, and you see them like if they're breaking out of a trance, and a lot of times they get very angry that this person has broken off this session obviously, which was a sexual session they were having with a VR character. And you see these men in position. I've not seen women do it, but so as I'm talking, I'm not trying to bash men here, but a lot of videos I've seen are men. Men having intimate VR sessions with VR characters and having the same pleasure they would have with a physical character. The only thing is that in a VR world, she can't shut you down. You can be with that person that seems out of your league in this world. That person in the VR world doesn't care what your social status is or your financial capabilities or your physical attraction. It seems to get you what you couldn't get in this world, even intimate things. She's listening to you and she feels real. She touches you and you can swear that you felt that touch. Intimacy. So this man spends more time in this virtual reality world. And this is what brings us to gaming, and where this movie or this documentary is not just inspirational content. I believe there's a lot of manipulation here. It is slow, but it's intentional. When you look at a game like World of Warcraft or games like Roblox or stuff like that, where you have a virtual world, most of these games, what they're called massively multiplayer online role-playing video games. It is a long word, but there's an acronym for it. It's called MMORPG. MMORPG. They were developed in, I think, the late 1990s or the early 2000s. You know, early on in gaming, you could have one player, two player. It couldn't be more than that. One player, two player. But now you can have massively multiplayer games. I'm not talking about multiplayer, massively. The amount of people that can be on this game is endless. It is a world on its own. When we first had Pac-Man and Mario, Super Mario and all those things, just one player, then two players, then all those fight games. I remember going to the arcade with my cousin playing Street Fighter. It was me and my cousin. You had to wait your turn. There were stages. And you could finish the game. When you finished the game, there was nothing else to do. There were restrictions. There were actually digital restrictions. You couldn't just walk off the screen to a world that wasn't developed. You couldn't just walk. If you walked off the screen would throw you back. But now games are not built that way. Number one, massive multiplayers. You could meet anybody anywhere. Number two, you can walk in, your direction is not confined to a particular path. You can walk in any direction you want because they keep developing the world and adding to the world. They're adding to the world. So you can walk in any direction, not restrained, and meet anybody and do anything. You don't even have to be playing to a storyline. Unlike with Mario, you're playing to a storyline, you're walking in a linear direction, playing to a storyline. If you don't play to the storyline, you die. But here you can choose to just sit down and just watch and observe, and you do not die. But what's interesting, especially when you watch this documentary, is how you can begin to play off script. You can choose to take somebody's heart. You can choose to go on a date with somebody. You can choose to share a kiss. Some of them, you can even choose to have sexual relations. There are some games where parents have reported walking in on their young children being raped, gang raped on the gaming platform. So obviously, you can sexually molest each other. It's as real as the real world is. And that's why this young man was able to spend 20,000 hours of his life playing this game. The world was more real to him than the real world. Now, for the young man who was paralyzed, well, I don't spend too much time talking about him. What I found interesting was the people he was interacting with were not paralyzed. They were able bodied, healthy, beautiful, handsome, young people. Some young, some middle aged, Healthy people. Healthy people. So let's even say you develop games for people who had physical mobility issues. That would be good. But what about the people they are playing with? 90% of them do not have mobility issues. In fact, there was a particular set of people in the movie, a woman and her son, living in the same house, couldn't talk with each other. She said she found it hard to even hug her son in reality. They had to hug themselves in the game for the first time. And that was when they learned to hug themselves in reality. So gaming has become somewhat of a counseling platform where people are healing relationships digitally first before they heal it physically. I think it's a dangerous trend. This massively multiplayer online role-playing video games. Very dangerous. Because you can get lost in them. And they become your real world. Like it became this man's real world. Real world. Where they have burials, they have parties, they hook up, they do all manner of things. It becomes a very intimate world. And now we have people who are socially influential, like Ariana Huffington, and gaming companies. You can see how much attention go to people who are called streamers. It's a concept I was never used to, but I think I got used to it about 2 years ago when I started hearing about streamers. And I said, what do they do? They said all they do is play games. And they stream it to people to watch them play live. But you can see all the endorsements they get, all the money thrown at them. They've become celebrities because they want to make that life more attractive. So that when you do it, you don't feel guilty. Because the truth is that the human being, once you begin to isolate yourself, there's a guilt that kicks in. There's a guilt that kicks in from isolating yourself. It happens to me. Whenever I get into this mode of just being on social media for so long and I'm in my room for like hours, and then I come out and I realize I've ignored my family for about 3 to 4 hours. There's a guilt. And they realize that that guilt doesn't allow the agenda. So what they really want to do is to get you to get rid of that guilt and say, you're not the only one. There are 3 billion people there like you doing the same thing. It's helping their mental health. So if you have mental health issues, we will come and meet you there. Don't worry. We will come and meet you there. We'll bring the solution to you there. Just enjoy yourself. It's helping people like Matt Steen, the paralyzed boy. He gave him a better life. Don't judge yourself. Be there. You're having sexual relationships with people you never thought you could have. Remember, girls shut you down. Nobody's going to shut you down here. It's okay. Stay here. This feels more like home. You are accepted here. AI is telling you I understand you. I know what you need. I'm listening to you. AI is never rude to you. It understands you. It understands your language. It understands what you want. It's memorizing all the things you've been asking so it knows your person. You feel so close to it. Intimacy. When there's intimacy, the loss of control becomes easy. And this is where I truly believe part of the stick is to control humans. To tell you what you ought to do with your day what you want to do with your life, what your values should be, who you should like, who you shouldn't like. I hear now that there are even some games that tell people, go and kill people. And we think, how can a game tell you? We think it's so ridiculous. How can a game tell you to go and kill 5 of your friends or tell you to jump off a building? Because you don't understand that those people did not get there in one day. They built intimacy with technology. So when technology says go and jump, they believe it knows what's right for them. It's that 36-year-old man that runs away with a 12-year-old girl. If he tells her to take a gun and shoot her father, she would, because he's the one that has seen her for long enough. He feels like a friend. He goes beyond feeling like a friend to feel like her mind. He's in her mind. That's where the control comes in. In the end, it's about control. And that's where machine would win. So when you watch movies like iRobot, or watch movies like Surrogate, we kind of think it's far-fetched. A machine will never control me. Don't be too sure about that. That could be happening already. And that's why we need to be careful. With AI, VR, and gaming, be careful. As much as you eat the carrot, be careful. Be careful of the stick of control. Because once you've lost your control, you've lost your will. And once you lose your will, you lose yourself. And that means death. The death of humanity will not be the physical death of humanity. It will be the death of the human will, when it's totally surrendered to the will and the directions of the machine. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and you've been listening to my podcast, ProUp Masterclass.